So, after the success and positive feedback on our Lion King episode that we did with Rachel, I decided to release a second part to this film where we discussed with Rachel her collectibles and some of the fan theories that have surrounded the film, controversial fan theories that have surrounded this film since its release in 1994, that are still discussed to this day. So I hope you enjoy this as much as you enjoyed the original episode. So let's get into it. When I was younger, I actually hated this film for the sole fact that yeah, I hated this film because for the sole fact of I used to be in like a creche, and this was the only video they would put on. So they'd be like, "Oh, we're going to put on a video," and every day it was, "We're going to put on the Lion King," and I was like, "We watched the Lion King for the last 2 weeks. Can we seriously stop watching the Lion King?" And no, there wasn't. No other child was asking for the Lion King. This was the
teacher.
I would have looked at it as, you know, the parents sort of thing, because it's not parents, but, you know, the adults wanted to watch this. But when I look back at that, you know, it's a creche. You don't really have adults working there. It was kind of, it was 15 and 16-year-olds that were being left to look after us, and they wanted to watch it.
Yeah.
So they kept putting it on. So it, as I said, like, we feel the nostalgia to the film because it was something from our childhoods. But it was obviously still quite impactful for people that at that age, at that time as well, because they can't have, like, if they were 15 then, it came out when they were that age, you know?
Put it this way, does Shakespeare have an age limit?
Exactly,
because
that's the thing.
The Lion King is Shakespeare. The Lion King is Hamlet.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
It is, yeah.
So it's, of course, it's going to connect with all those different ages, adults, teenagers, kids, because I mean, like, it's Shakespeare. Shakespeare doesn't age.
Yeah.
And it is Hamlet. It's the story of Hamlet. So you know, that to me is why so many people could connect to it, to the story, because it's just an amazing story.
Yeah, but as a child, I was always like, I'm sick. Whenever anyone suggested putting this on, I was like, I'm not watching that. I'd honestly just feel I'm not watching that. Like, I've seen that like every day for the last 2 years. I'm not watching that again.
Yeah.
And I would just refuse to watch it. And it's a shame that happened, because it did make me dislike this film for not, I don't know if I disliked it, but I hated having it on because I was like, I'm not watching that again. And it's a shame, because if I'd seen it less frequently, I would have been able to enjoy it much more back then. Whereas now when I watch it, because I'm not watching it every day, I'm like, no, like, I really do enjoy this film.
Yeah.
So I think when I remember back then, I'm like, I hated this film. I didn't hate the film. I just was sick of it. It was too much. Yeah, it was too much of the Lion King.
I don't like spaghetti bolognese because I was fed it every day as a kid. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So spaghetti bolognese isn't bad, but I just don't like it.
It's, you know, it was built up too much for you, and it's just I can't do that again. Just get that away from me. But it is a great film, and I don't think anyone will ever.
I opened on the movie by mistake when I was a kid.
Really?
I never seen it in the cinema. I was only 2 when it came out. So the first time I seen it was on VHS.
The same as me, yeah.
Yeah, my favourite film before I seen The Lion King when I was a kid was 101 Dalmatians, because I'm just a big animal lover, and especially dogs. So that was my favourite film, and I had that on VHS, and I had a little friend who lived next door to me, and she asked me one day, could she borrow the 101 Dalmatians? So I says, yeah, all right then, yeah, go on. So about a week or so passed, and I hadn't got my video back, and I was kind of getting a bit anxious here. I was like, all right, now where's my tape? Like, so I ended up knocking in and asking for my tape, and she kind of went, oh yeah, I'll bring it in to you, yeah. So she brought it into me about an hour later, and it was broke, and I was so annoyed. And she told me that her brother had accidentally stepped on it, and I was like, right, okay. So to say sorry for breaking my favourite VHS tape, she gave me her favourite VHS tape, which was The Lion King. So I took it, and I remember like not wanting to watch it. I was like, like lions are like they're more like cats. Like I like dogs. I don't want to watch The Lion King. Like, And I remember really annoyed, like, and I put it on eventually, and it was just like, this is the best thing I've ever watched in my life. Like, the animation of it, I was just so captivated by the way these characters were drawn, the colours in the film, the music in the film, the voice actors were so perfect. The story, like, everything just came together in like a perfect storm, and I was just like, this is the best thing I've ever seen in my life. And I didn't even want to watch it.
Yeah. I'm the same as you in terms of animals. Dogs are definitely better than cats. Like, there's no
Yeah,
doubt about it. A dog is way better than a cat.
absolutely.
Like, there's nothing close. And when I
Yeah,
was younger, I didn't really like cats. I
yeah,
was like, I don't really like cats. They're selfish, and I can't sit there and pet a cat.
yeah,
Whereas a dog will come over and let me pet it. So I liked
yeah,
dogs.
yeah,
Now I do like cats now because
yeah,
I've grown up and I'm like, actually, no, cats are
yeah.
fine. But like, I still prefer
For
if I was given
cats,
it.
like,
If someone goes, you can go over there to that dog or to that cat, I'm still going to go over to the dog every
yeah,
time, right?
exactly.
Um, and I've had arguments with people in work about this, where there was an argument between me and one of the older women that worked there, and she was like, okay, but if there was a baby and a dog there, a baby and a puppy there, which one would you go to? And I told her flat out, I was like, the baby can fuck off. I'm going over to that little
Yeah,
puppy.
puppy.
And she was like, you're the only person. I was like, I can guarantee it. We were on like a work night out, and I stopped
Yeah,
every single person. I was like, if a woman was sitting over there with a baby and a woman with a little puppy, which one do you go to? And I was like, I'm
oh
telling you
God.
now, every person is going to say that puppy, every single one of them. I
Yeah.
was like, I'm telling you now, people would prefer to see a little puppy than they would a little baby.
Mm.
And there
Sure,
was
I
a
feel
bit,
like my dog is my baby.
yeah.
Do you know
And
what I mean? Like,
I think I'd say about 90% of the people were like, I think I'd probably go over to the puppy.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um, so
100%.
puppies are like dogs are the best of them, but
Mhm.
the Lion King, I think, is probably the best one. That, like, I love 101 Dalmatians because it
Yeah,
has so many dogs in it. I loved Fox and the Hound because there was a dog in it. But
Lady the Tramp.
Lady and the Tramp, I did enjoy Lady and the Tramp, but it definitely wasn't up there as high as those ones.
Oh,
Like
I love
101
Lady.
Dalmatians was ahead of Lady and the Tramp. Fox and the Hound was definitely ahead of Lady and the Tramp. I think that's probably one of my favorites.
Fox and
Is
the
Fox and
Hound.
the, yeah, that's one of my
Yeah,
favorite ones. Yeah,
yeah, that's very
but
good.
this film definitely, I think this is definitely, I think, Disney's top.
Oh, no, no contest. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, this and Beauty and the Beast
I
would
think yeah,
probably be. You think Disney, you think Lion King, Beauty and the Beast,
yeah, I think so. I
generally.
think I think they're the two biggest ones. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, Mighty Ducks is technically Disney, so that's actually the best, but it's not an animated film, so like it doesn't fall into that category.
Yeah.
Um, but it's weird how that's how children operate. Like, she broke your favorite video,
Mm.
so the only
Yeah.
logical step is I'll give you my
Take
favorite.
your point. Yeah. Yeah.
Like that shouldn't have really been how it worked out. It should have just been
No.
kind of the parents should have stepped in and been like, no, listen, we'll just buy you another copy of
Yeah.
101 Dalmatians because
Mm.
it's probably like
That was
10
never
quid.
gonna
Like,
happen though.
I know, yeah,
These
but
people were they were a bit odd, if I'm being
yeah,
honest.
but like
They were like
it's weird. Like
not
that's how children's brains work. Of like, oh, I broke
Yeah.
your favorite thing, so I better give you my favorite thing. And you're just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
why do children think like that? But that's how everyone
Yeah.
thought. Like, oh, I broke
Yeah.
your thing, so here's my one. Sorry. And then it's
Yeah.
all fine. You're not
Yeah.
happy straight away, but you're like, well, they gave me their favorite thing, so it's okay.
I think though, if my memory is correct, I think after a few weeks she asked me for it back.
Yeah,
And I'm like, no. I
exactly.
love
Yeah,
it too much now.
yeah. You're not getting that back. It's mine now. I'm keeping
Yeah,
it.
no, never happening.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But you obviously became a huge fan from that point on, and
Yeah,
as we can see from behind you, you've got a load of things collected up. When
yeah.
did you start kind of collecting things?
So the first figures I suppose I got when I was 10.
Mm.
We took a trip to Los Angeles because we had family friends who live over there, and we went to Disneyland, and I still remember to this day, like I found this set of Lion King figures in one of the shops in Disneyland, and they were just like, because as I keep saying, I'm such a visual person and I'm like a stickler for detail, and these figures were like, you could have just taken them out of the movie. they were so accurate, and they were just like the best things I've ever seen in my life. So obviously we bought them, and I still have them. It's here actually. This is
Jeez,
this is the guy. I don't know if you can see the detail on that.
Yeah, you can. Jeez, that really is done well. And it's in great condition considering you've had that since you were 10.
Yeah. So that's the first ones I got. It came in a little set with how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All the main characters in the film.
Yeah.
So they were the first ones I ever bought. I kept them in a little box up in my room. Nobody ever was allowed to touch them. And then it actually wasn't until like years later I kind of developed the collecting bug. I was never like a big collector, but I was on eBay. God, when was it? It must have been about 5 years ago, maybe. And I found these, the original 94 Mattel figures in box, and they're not as like detailed or strict, but they're still shit cool, like, and I just fell in love with them and I bought the whole lot. And from there then I kind of, you know, was like, oh, what other figures are there? And I just got to Googling, and there's so much Lion King merch out there. Like there's so many different companies. Like the first ones I got there, Hasbro. Yeah. The Mattel. Then there's another company called Applause. That's these here. They're actually pretty good as well. Detail wise, they're pretty accurate. Then there's the Tomy ones. The Tomy do Disney Magical Collection, they're called. Right. And it's not just Lion King, it's all Disney characters, but like being Japanese, they're just the best figures you've ever seen. Like the detail is crazy. Yeah, they have them here. So that's them there. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, that's great. It has little Zazu sitting up on his back as well.
Yeah, so have them. They're pretty cool. And then just to see, like, you know, it just kind of became like an obsession then. Even if I didn't think the figures were that great, I still had to have them because, like, they're part of it now. So even though I don't really like them, I kind of have to have them. So the newer stuff, I kind of hate it, but I still have it. Like if I show you this is like the most recent kind of Lion Guard figure.
Yeah.
What that? Like, what is that?
Yeah, it's the mane's the wrong color.
The color is off. The face is off. Like it's just a generic kind of.
You've gotten it. You're in deep though. You're in deep now though. You know you've committed too much to it. You have to go the whole hog.
I hate it, but I paid fucking money for it. Like, what is wrong with you? Here we are. But,
well, that's the problem when you become like into a collecting sort of state for something. Yeah. Like for you, it's Lion King. Obviously, Space Jam is my big film, and there's stuff I have for Space Jam where I'm like, why did I bother? Like, why do I have that? And I was like, it was got, so just gonna have to keep going with that now. Like I have it on VHS, DVD, and Blu-ray. The Blu-ray is still in its original packaging. The DVD's been played. The VHS has obviously been played to near death. I don't know if it would work if I put it in a VHS player at this point. It's been used so much. Yeah. But like, there was no reason to buy that Blu-ray. I was just like, may as well, like just in case.
Yeah. No, I'm exactly the same. Like they started bringing out then, obviously a few years ago, started bringing out Disney merch in pennies. Worst thing that ever happened in the entire world, because of course Muggins here goes to Penny's and spends hundreds on shit she doesn't need.
That's the problem.
Just because there's Simba on it. Yeah. Like blanket, cushion, like I'm not gonna put that on my bed. Like
but you have to have it. Yeah, but you still have to have it. It has to be there.
It just has to be in the house, like, but like it's crazy, like.
Yeah, well,
you get the bug and you're hooked.
I think you're all right because Ian's as bad as well. So at least you're not going to have him sitting there being like, you can't be buying that, because then you're turning around to him and going, well, you can't be buying that. Yeah, so exactly. Then the two of you go, well, I'm going to buy my one, so I better just let him buy this one.
Exactly. But then it's a bad thing as well because the fucking house is overrun with stuff. Yeah, like
that's the problem.
There's stuff everywhere, and there's no sign of stopping. It's like we're going to need to buy like a 10-bedroom gaff. That's never going to happen.
Yeah. You'll just need to just other, things that other people might consider necessary are going to have to be foregone.
Yeah, like fridges and washing machines.
Yeah,
and
what
stuff.
do we need? What do we need a sofa for? We have this lovely Lion King blanket that we can sit on. What are you talking about?
Television? No.
Nah, just as long as I can play the Lion King on the laptop, that's fine.
Yeah.
But obviously, Lion King, because it's such a big film, has had lots of theories and in-depth looks into it. Because when people become so involved in something, they start looking for things that used to be there and aren't there. Have you ever heard of any of these kind of fan theories or things in the film?
Yeah, I suppose the first one that I ever heard, which really kind of annoyed me, because I know you've obviously heard of the conspiracy surrounding Disney, and we won't get into that, but there's a theory that the scene where Simba kind of slumps down and the wind takes kind of some debris off into the air, and it kind of goes up in little swirls, and it's nice and artistic, and somebody somewhere thought that they seen the word sex written in the little feathers that was so like I did have a look, and like if you look really hard you can see something. At first I thought that's just someone, if you're looking for it you're gonna see it.
Yeah, you were looking for that.
I thought. It's like if you're looking for that sort of stuff you're going to see it, like if it's there or not. But then I kind of looked into it a little bit, and apparently one of the people that worked on the film, I can't remember who he was, but he came out in response to it, and he said no, there was letters in that, but it wasn't what people thought. It was actually meant to read SFX, so like special effects, and it was supposed to be a nod to animation or whatever.
And I saw that as well, that he came out and he said they're half correct. They've just put an extra line in it that they shouldn't have. And maybe that line might actually be there, but it wasn't there intentionally.
Yeah, exactly.
But the one big issue with it now is, and I think this is where Disney made a mistake, is that they've fixed that on newer versions. So if you go on Disney Plus now, they've changed it so that that's not like that anymore.
Okay, right.
So it's now just generic dust. They've changed that, and I understand why they've changed it, because they want to like make people forget. But that's not that's not how the internet works. It was on the internet, and it's there now forever. You can't get rid of that. So I think they probably should have just left it there, but they've obviously tried to fix that. Now it looks like you're trying to hide it, whereas I think they should have just gone. Just let people let people say it, and just come out and say it was a nod to the special effects guys, SFX. That's it, and just say that, admit that that's what it was, and just move on
and leave it. Exactly.
But that was definitely one. I think that's probably a larger conspiracy against Disney as well. That's not it's not just Lion King that they've brought that up in other things.
And again, that's a whole other podcast.
It is, but there's been a new one that came out quite recently. Did you see that one about?
That was the TikTok one, was it?
Yeah, the one about what happened to Mufasa's body.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. I think it was a teenager actually that came out with this.
Yeah.
But there was one going around on TikTok that when Mufasa died and Simba ran away, what happened to his body? So someone Googled, do hyenas eat lions, and they came up with the answer no. Generally hyenas don't eat lions. The only thing that eats lions is other lions. So someone came up with the theory that Scar ate his own brother, which is lovely.
Yeah.
And there's a scene in the film where Scar has taken the throne, I suppose you want to call it that, and he's sitting in Mufasa's cave in Pride Rock, and he's singing, and he takes up a skull, and he starts doing this with a skull, and same person Googled lion skulls, and it looks pretty similar to the skull that Scar is playing with. So they came up to it with the conclusion that Scar ate his own brother and is playing with his skull, which is lovely.
It is lovely, but I think the slight problem with that one is, and it's where I wouldn't believe this, is the end of the film. We see Scar get killed by hyenas.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, if the hyenas have killed Scar, and hyenas never leave meat uneaten, presumably they've eaten Scar. So presumably, if they ate Scar, then they eat lions, and therefore. Now, I think the reason that when you Google "do hyenas eat lions" is because if a lion and a hyena get into a fight, the
We
winner
know
is a
who's gonna
lion.
win. Yeah.
So hyenas don't eat lions because they eat fresh meat. They won't go and get a kill that's died from years ago to eat.
Yeah.
They'll only eat the
Yeah.
fresh meat, and since they can't kill a lion, they can't eat a lion.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I would say if you killed a lion and threw it into a pack of hyenas, I bet you they'd eat it.
Not even that though. Generally lions aren't lone animals, so they're always going to be together.
A pack, yeah.
At least two. So hyenas are generally not going to approach that. If hyenas happen to find a lone lion for whatever reason, and there's enough hyenas, they'll
go
attack
for it.
one
Yeah,
lion and
they
they'd
would
kill it and eat it.
Yeah.
So
I think that's somebody reaching a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's one, and I haven't seen.
Disturbing. Why do you want to reach to that? Like,
I think people just
for that.
It's just people wanting that 15 minutes of fame, you know. Oh, I discovered this, and like, because I've seen some of this stuff on like different shows and stuff as well, and they're like, did you ever notice that this person does this? And I'm like, it's like no one ever noticed it, and I read it and I'm like, yeah, everyone knew that. I thought that was common knowledge. I wouldn't have thought like I better try and announce to the world that you know this character does this in the film. Like, no, that's everyone just knew that. There was one I seen about, and it's more to do with lions in general. Each pack of lions only tends to have one male.
Yes. Oh, don't I know the one don't go there.
Yeah. Now apparently the original story was meant to be that Scar was going to be Nala's father.
Yeah.
And they nixed that because they decided they wanted Simba and Nala to be a couple at the end of it. Yeah. Which would therefore lead to an incest sort of storyline. So they just nixed that.
You can't be having lads.
They can't, yeah. So they just nixed that, and they gave no explanation as to where the other cubs in the pride come from. And that's done intentionally because they were like, we want to try and stay kind of accurate to how lions are, but we also don't want to say, you know,
you can't confuse children like that. No way.
Well, you can't confuse children like that. And the thing is that, you know, to us, that's wrong because we're humans and we look at it in a different way. But in the animal kingdom, a lot of the time, that isn't viewed as a problem. So,
yeah. Well, in the animal kingdom, as you said, one male lion in a pride of lions, that's the rules. And he fathers all the cubs from all the females.
Yeah. So in reality, it probably is true. But like they've actively gone away from that in the film. So even though it probably is in some way true, I think it's fair to just ignore it at the same time.
Like, why focus on that? Like,
yeah, exactly. Like that's the thing. Like, it is the stuff that you don't need to be looking at. You know, just look at and this is the stuff that I was saying. People want to point that out. Like they want people to recognize it, to take away from the childhood and like the childishness of the film. Yeah. And in child films, sometimes you just have to accept things just happen, you know, like, oh, how does that work? And you're just like, it doesn't matter how it worked. It's a child's film. Like, you know, why are all the children in all these films able to afford anything they want when their family isn't rich? Because because it's a film. Like, that's not how real life is, you know?
Everything doesn't need to make sense. Like,
like Home Alone, why can he afford that big house on the small salary he's on? Because if you don't have that big house, you can't have the film. That's why.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, just put that to the side. It's fine.
Yeah. They kind of met that challenge as well in the sequel in 98.
I never watched any of the sequels.
Right, okay. So there was a sequel in 98, I think it was. It was Lion King 2, Simba's Pride. And for a straight to VHS film, I actually thought it was pretty good. Now, maybe it was just because I was such a big fan of the film and I just was excited to see where the story went. But I did think it was quite okay. Like, Matthew Broderick still voiced Simba. So the story basically briefly, it's again, they're following the Shakespeare narrative. It's Romeo and Juliet.
Okay.
So they have Simba's daughter, Kiara. She's coming of age, and they have then what's called the Outlanders, which are a pride of lions that are banished from the Pride lands. And this apparently is where Scar used to skulk off to. And
Right.
he had a missus that nobody knew about called Zira, and she had a couple of cubs. And there's a cub in it, Kovu, who was the same age as Simba's daughter Kiara. And they end up meeting by chance one day, and stuff develops and la di da. But of
Yeah.
course, they couldn't have Kovu being Scar's son, because that means Kiara is falling in love with her cousin.
Yeah.
So they had to literally kind of tread that very carefully, even though they wanted to be the Romeo and Juliet kind of narrative. He still couldn't be Scar's son, so it was kind of like made out that it was his adopted son, and they actually gave the character like very specific lines in the film to make it clear that he's not Scar's son. Like, he'd be same kind of thing from the first film. There's a part of it, I think, I don't know this film as well, but he's looking into the water and he sees his reflection turn into Scar, and he says to Kiara something like, he wasn't my father, but blah 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 blah. So they made it very clear like that
Okay.
he's not his father. It's not, like,
Yeah.
but yeah.
You see, it surprises me that went straight to DVD as well, or straight to
Mm.
VHS, I suppose, as it would have been at the
Yeah.
time, because
Yeah.
with The Lion King being the success it was, it's very surprising that they didn't just go like, this should have been in the cinema. Like nowadays,
It should have been. It was
nowadays if
quite a
something
good
made that
movie,
much
like,
money, it's definitely going to get a sequel in the
yeah.
cinema. It's not going to go
And
straight to DVD or VHS
the
or whatever.
animation as well was quite good. Like, it was, the way sometimes you see sequels that are straight to DVD or whatever, and it's generally not as good. It's not as high budget, so the animation isn't as great. Like, but it actually was pretty good. Like, and the story was pretty good. Again, as I said, they're running with the Shakespeare narrative, so it was a good story. I got really invested in the characters. I love the character of Kovu. There's a really good dynamic between him and Simba, where Simba is trying to protect his pride and be the king and protect the Pride lands, and these Outlanders are they're bad and they can't, and she can't be with him, and there's this little relationship that develops with him and Kovu. When now there's a whole other side story to that, but
Yeah.
basically, the evil Scar's missus, she comes up with a plot to basically train Kovu from a cub to basically take down Simba, because she knows that he has met Kiara. There's a little friendship there. They're only kids at this stage, so she decides, okay, I'm going to get in his head, and she turns him kind of into this kind of killing machine. And the way they draw him, he's really bulky, and he's quite intimidating looking. So it's a whole plan that kind of is going on in the background, and then Kiara and Kovu meet when they're older, and it's orchestrated by this Zira is her name,
Yeah.
Scar's missus. And Kiara, of course, is genuinely developing feelings for this other lion, Kovu, and he has his orders all along, and he's to get close to Simba, and then eventually when he gets close enough, he's to kill him, like, and take the throne. But of course, as the film goes on, they develop a real relationship. Kovu develops feelings for Kiara, and he develops a really good relationship with Simba, and he actually likes Simba and realizes that Simba is not the bad lion that he's been taught he has been his whole life. And it is a really good, I thought it was a good movie. I do think it should have went to the cinema. It would have done quite all right, I think.
Yeah, it sounds to me like that's a really good second. Like, the one thing that Disney isn't great at in terms of, especially for their animated films, was their sequels. Their sequels always seemed to be a little bit off. I don't know what caused it, but it just always seemed that like they made sequels to a lot of their films and they just didn't really go that well. But this one sounds like it actually would be entertaining, and I probably will. I'm going to go give it a watch after this now, because it sounds like it's very good.
Yeah, it is good. Now, it's nowhere near as good as the first one, but it is good, and the music in it as well is quite good. Like, obviously it's nowhere near like Elton John, Hans Zimmer level, But it's still quite good. Like, and as I said, Matthew Broderick returned for as the voice of Simba,
which is a big thing.
Yeah, like I thought it was quite like good, and as you said, it probably would have done well if they had brought it to the cinema. Like they made figures for it and everything. Mattel again.
Yeah, it's a very strange one to have such a big Hollywood success.
That's Kovu and Kiara.
Oh, that's pretty good.
You know, it's like kind of darker, kind of like
the same way Scar was. Yeah, like this is the bad guy because he's a darker shade of color, which is a bit, maybe that's not the correct way to do things anymore. But that's it's a lion. It has to be a certain color. Like it has to be a certain color, and you had to make them look different, otherwise it's too difficult. As we said, they did with the new film, it was too difficult to differentiate, so you do still need something, and unfortunately that's the easiest way to differentiate one line from the other. But that does sound like it's a very strange one for them to have taken something that was such a huge commercial success and not capitalize on that by making another film to put in the cinema. I think there's another one again after that. Is there a Lion King 3?
It's technically 1.5. It's
right. It's in the middle, is it?
It's a prequel / what do they call it? Paraquel. So right. It starts as the origin stories of Timon and Pumbaa and how they met, and then it goes into Simba's life growing up with Timon and Pumbaa. So obviously in the first film we don't really see him growing up. We just see that scene where they're on the log,
tree,
which is great. Like, and they're
that is a great scene.
And he just grows up while we're looking at them dancing. But it goes through all that, how he grew up with Timon and Pumbaa, and all that sort of stuff.
Now, see, that seems like a very straight to DVD type film where it's like,
that one
this isn't going to be great. It's just going to be, if you're into it, you're into it, and if you're not, you're not. But it's strange not to have gone big with the second film, like the actual second film. That's a strange one to me. But I'm definitely going to check it out now that you've mentioned what the storyline sort of is. It sounds like it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I loved it. Now I did.
Yeah. Well, there's probably not a whole lot of anything in the Lion King that you dislike. Even the live animation, you don't like it, but you still went to see it, and you probably wouldn't turn it off if it was put on in front of you either. You'd be like,
I wouldn't turn it off. I actually have to watch it again because, as I said, I only seen it once in the cinema.
Yeah. If you watch it side by side, the one thing that's really good about it is the opening scene.
Okay. Yeah.
That's really because the opening scene, it's slightly longer in terms of when an elephant takes a step, it takes that second longer.
Yeah.
But it's pretty much image for image of the original opening scene. Now, obviously, the sun rising is not like in the animated. You see the sun literally rising like that.
Yeah.
It's not like that because that's not how the sun rises.
Yeah.
So they kind of have it that there's clouds on the sun that kind of come down rather than go up.
Yeah, okay.
But other than that, it's exactly that. Like the opening scene is the exact same. It only starts changing when we get to Scar trying to catch the mouse. That's when it first changes.
Okay.
It shows the mouse running around for a little bit before Scar catches it. Whereas in the animated film, it's kind of the mouse runs by and Scar just catches it straight away. That's when it first starts to change, and that's what I mean. They've added little scenes in.
Yeah.
And
one scene I remember actually
didn't need to be added in.
It was because the way in the original, obviously, Simba leaves and we see nothing of Nala until she reappears as an adult.
Yeah.
Hunting Pumbaa. So I remember they added another little scene, a few scenes with Nala in the new one, and it kind of delved into the story of her and Scar. That Scar was wanting to make her his missus basically, and she was going, no, this isn't happening. And then eventually you see her kind of escaping from Pride Rock, and that's how she ran off and she eventually found Simba again.
Yeah, I think that was I don't know if that added to it. I think that was just they had Beyonce as the voice actress, and they were like,
we need to give Beyonce more
get Beyonce on here, build her character up a little bit. And I think that was the problem, that they got someone like Beyonce, because
Like,
you
Beyonce
get
doesn't own The Lion King. And that's
yeah.
what bugged me about it as well, because when we found out that Beyonce was going to be voicing Nala, it became the fucking Beyonce show.
And that was the problem. They got someone big, and I was like,
yeah,
you've gotten someone big, which is good for publicity if this wasn't already an established film.
huge film. Like, they didn't need Beyonce to
Like what they went and got James Earl Jones back as Mufasa,
and
which
I
was
was
perfect. Do that.
couldn't have
Try
done, and nobody else can voice him.
Yeah, but
Nobody on the planet.
try and get as many of the original actors. Like they should have been
Yeah.
reaching out to all those original actors. Forget Beyonce.
Like,
You
we
know?
could have got Rowan Atkinson back as
And
Zazu.
I think that was actually one of the worst castings.
Yeah, it was so bad. Yeah,
I think Rowan Atkinson's voice suited it so much more. I didn't think Zazu was great in the new film at all.
no, yeah.
I did like Glover as Simba.
Yeah, do you know what? I would agree with you there.
I think he was a better adult Simba.
Yeah, I hated Matthew Broderick as Simba, to be honest with you. Now, when I was a kid, I didn't really know any different.
Yeah.
But as I kind of grew up and got to know who Matthew Broderick was, I can't stand Matthew Broderick.
Yeah.
He's the most wooden, robotic actor on the planet. I just can't stand him.
Yeah.
And then when I found out that he voiced Simba, I was kind of like, don't let it ruin it for you.
Yeah.
Don't let it. And it took a lot of effort for it to not ruin it for me. Like, you know.
Well, I think the thing is that you don't see him, so his kind of woodenness doesn't really come out in the film because it's just him reading lines and the animation. Voice, yeah, when you know it's his voice, it does kind of
like just block it out. Like,
yeah, just forget who it is. But yeah, Beyonce was the wrong cast for this because she was too big, and it was like we need to use Beyonce more, and it's like that shouldn't be
extra narrative for Beyonce. Like,
don't use her more. Like if she wants to be like, I'd understand if it was Beyonce. Like there's every chance that because of her age, Beyonce was a huge Lion King fan, and if she was like, oh, I'd love to be on that, and she was like, yeah, put me in. And they put her in, and they're like, by the way, like you're only getting the scenes that Nala ever got. Like we're not adding anything. And she was like, cool, I don't want anything added. That's fine. And I don't know if it was her that asked for more stuff to be added, or if they were just like, we have to. But someone should have nixed that and been like, I don't need that.
Yeah, it's not necessary.
Like it's added nothing to the story. It hasn't made the Lion King any more interesting. The only thing it does is give you a slight bit extra on Nala, which you don't need because no one ever questioned what's Nala been up to.
No, because nobody cared because it wasn't about Nala.
No, it's about Simba. Yeah,
like,
it's all about Simba. Like,
yeah, she adds to the story when needed.
Yeah.
But nobody ever was sitting there going, "Oh, I wonder what Nala was doing." Like no, you were wondering what Simba was doing in those few years. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the thing, and I think that's where they made the mistake on this new film. As I said, it's that little bit longer because they've put things like that in that they don't add anything.
Yeah.
I have no problem with the film being longer, but make it so it means something.
Yeah. But no, I do agree that what was his name, Donald Glover, he was definitely a good adult Simba. I agree.
Yeah, he was great for adult Simba, yeah.
And I was so happy when they brought James Earl Jones back as
Mufasa. I don't think I could have heard Mufasa talk if it wasn't James Earl Jones.
If it wasn't him, I probably wouldn't have seen the film. I probably would have been like, no, it's not.
I remember when I read that that's who they got for Mufasa, I was like, that's huge, like, because he doesn't need that, but he obviously realizes that the film needs it.
Yeah. I thought Seth Rogen was good for Pumbaa. I did think he was a good choice.
Yeah, I thought both Timon and Pumbaa were done quite well.
Yeah, they were good, I thought. Zazu didn't. They could have easily asked Ron Atkinson. I think he would have done it.
I think if you didn't have Zazu in the new film, it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah.
Whereas I think if you don't have him in the original, it did matter.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I know he doesn't have any real extra lines or anything like that, but it's just the way he presented himself in the cartoon, the way he's presented, the animation of how he's real royal about himself. He makes himself big when he's introducing Mufasa coming in. The little bows and stuff, and like how he's when Mufasa gives out to him for letting them go to the boneyard, how he shrinks when he does that. In the animation version, they were able to do that, and it added a lot to him. Whereas in the newer version, they couldn't get you can't get the bird. You can't get the bird to shrink
Range
down or
of
to get up and bow.
motion.
Yeah, so I think if you just left him out of the film, it probably would have
Yeah.
worked. People would have complained that you didn't have him, but I don't think he added anything this time. I think he was just only there because he was there in the animated series. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, but you went to Orlando as well, I believe, didn't you? You said you went to Disneyland, and then you were a bit older now when you went to Orlando.
Yeah, we only went to Orlando in 2018, so 3 years ago. It was obviously somewhere I'd always wanted to go, being such a huge Disney fan. So we just basically saved our asses off and said, yeah, we're going 2018. And it was amazing. Like, it was the best holiday I've ever been on. Like, even if you weren't a Disney fan, it would still be an amazing holiday. It was unreal. To be honest with you though, I was a bit annoyed with the parks because I'm a big merch head, as you can see.
Yeah.
It's not just Lion King that I
It's pricey.
collect. Yeah, but it's pricey, but I expected that. But they have kind of like, they don't have a lot of merch for their older films.
No.
And I remember going on a rant to Ian because it's all about the new stuff. So it's like Frozen and Moana and all those kind of newer films. And that's not my, like, obviously I like the films, but they're not my cup of tea.
Yeah, you wanted to be
really.
able to get what you wanted, like.
I'm Disney Renaissance. That's me. So Beauty and the Beast, Lion King, all that sort of stuff. The stuff that made them, like, that's my stuff. So when I went to the parks, I was expecting to be able to buy all this merch that you wouldn't be able to get anywhere else. And when I went, there was nothing. There was nothing.
Yeah.
So, as we said, oh, feckin' Frozen and Moana and blah, blah, blah. And I actually got a bit annoyed because I was like, lads, you're forgetting about the stuff that made you, like, do you know what I mean? Like, there is still fans of these films, like, you know, so that kind of annoyed me a bit.
I think if you went again now, I think there'd probably be a lot more Lion King stuff because they've re-released it. But I think it would be the
it's the new stuff.
It'd be the line, like, yeah, the live version of it, which I don't think you'd want to collect as much because like, you can, like, it'd cost you, say, like 30 or 40 quid to get a little set, but they're basically just normal lions. Like, you could just go out and buy a normal set of lion toys somewhere and be like, there you go, that's them.
Yeah, exactly. Like, as I said, the reason I loved the film, or one of the big reasons I loved the film, was because of the animation and how it was drawn and visually how it looked, and I just absolutely fell in love with it. So that's why I like collecting the figures, because it's like, and the more film like the figure is, the more I like the figure.
Yeah.
So when they did bring out new merch when the new release came out, and they re-released kind of
some of the older stuff,
some of the animated but they're crap. Like, they're just like that. I don't know if you can see that behind the ear there. There's a box there. That's what they brought out. That's the set they brought out to promote the new film. And the just quality is just crap. Like, I mean, it's a loose one there.
I think they just kind of know that people aren't going to invest.
What's that like?
Yeah, it's just a generic little toy, like
cartoon lion. Like, if you just said to somebody, draw a cartoon lion there, that's what they draw. That's not Simba,
I wouldn't guess that was Simba. Like, genuinely wouldn't guess that's Simba. And that is a shame. Like, you'd wish they'd put a little bit more effort in, as you say, to release some new stuff, like, for the big
and
stuff
even
that
when
got
we
them there.
went to the Animal Kingdom in Orlando, I was kind of going, right, this is going to be it now. They're going to have loads of Lion King merch because it's Animal Kingdom. What the fuck else are they going to be selling? Like, come on, let's go. Real excited. Like, and there was feck all. There was nothing. There was a Lion King figure set, but it wasn't even Lion King. It was the Lion Guard. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Is that some sort of like made off the back of the Lion King?
Yeah, it's an animated series on the Disney Channel, and it's aimed at younger kids, like, so.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Probably why I'm not interested, like, but yeah, so it's all about the Lion Guard now in Animal Kingdom. Lion Guard, blah, blah, blah. And even though it is about the Lion Guard, there's still not a lot of merch there.
Yeah.
But I was kind of getting real annoyed. I was like, lads, you're forgetting about your bread and butter here, like, do you know what I mean?
I think this is where Disney slip up a little bit in that they create toys and things for children because they're toys, and that the people that are going to want them are children. And I think Disney have been slow to realize that collecting is a huge thing now. It's not just collecting used to be kind of something that you didn't tell people about, and you kind of did it in secret, and you didn't tell people, oh, I've spent this much money on collections. You didn't tell people because, you know, it was kind of a, not an embarrassment, but it was just something, you know, you kept to yourself and maybe discussed with a couple of others. And Disney are kind of still living in that age where they're like, oh yeah, people don't want to talk about that. Whereas it's now such a big thing that if they came out and they were like, we've released, and because people have grown up and now have their own money,
exactly. I was going
they
to say,
can come out, and if they come out and release like a really good, like, here's a deadly looking version of all the old Lion King characters, but it's gonna cost, say, like €150, right?
Yeah.
People are gonna look at that and go, that's expensive. But at the same time, you're like, I'm a collector. It's not a toy. I'm not gonna play with it. I'm gonna display it. And you're like, you might, will I get it? Will I not? But in the end, what's going to happen is you're going to go and get it.
Yeah.
And I think Disney they haven't caught up to that yet.
I don't think in the toy collecting they have. But to be fair to them, there is this thing, it's called, what's it called? WDCC or something like that. And it's basically, it's sculptures that they do.
Yeah, but then they're huge value, aren't they? Like, they're really expensive.
Oh, and I wouldn't know. I mean, there's gorgeous Lion King ones of like Simba on the Rock and Nala and Mufasa, and I mean, I'd love them, but they're so pricey. Like,
yeah, but that's the problem. That the wrong side of they're not €100 to €200. They're up in the 400 and 500, and then it's too expensive.
Then it's too much. Yeah.
Then you have to really have you need to have the spare money to be willing to buy it. Whereas if it's 200, you're like, I don't really have the money, but I also do have it. I'll do it. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where they've made the mistake.
Definitely.
They need that nice middle ground where they can get people who are willing to collect, but it's also, you know, not the top end of collectors where they're like, I'm so obsessed with this where I'll spend €600 on one statue. Not the whole set, just one.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think that pretty much covers the Lion King. I don't think there's a whole lot we've left out.
I think so, yeah. Covered pretty much everything, I think.
I don't think there's much more that can be covered on the Lion King. It's been covered quite extensively. But it was great. It was great to have you on, Rachel. And
thanks for having me.
I hope you didn't feel too nervous. As you said at the start, you were feeling a little bit nervous, but
I did. But as time went on, I kind of relaxed. Get me talking about Lion King, I'll be grand.
As I said, once you pick something that you're into, it's a lot easier to start going. But I was delighted to have you on, and if I ever have, well, not if I ever, when I do another Disney film, I'll definitely have you back on, because you seem to be the one that that knows their stuff. Whereas I've watched the films and I'm like, I enjoyed that. That was good. But I don't know all the in-depth things that you would know. And I definitely don't have the collection. I'm doubting you have the collection for all of the Disney films as you do for the Lion King.
Not this extensively.
Not to that extent, but there's still there's a few bits and pieces there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But no, it's great to have you on. And I will have you back on, definitely, as long as you don't hate this after seeing it.
No, I don't think so anyway.
I don't think you will either. I think I've enjoyed it, so hopefully everyone else will enjoy it. But it was great to have you on, and it was great to see you, because I obviously haven't been able to see you since lockdowns kind of come in. So hopefully once lockdown is lifted, we'll be able to meet up with yourself and Ian and go out for something to eat somewhere and
talk about Lion King over a pint.
Have a good chat about Disney over a nice drink.
Yeah.
But that's all for this week, guys. So thank you and good luck. Well, it's time for that part of the show that you all love, the advertisements for our sponsors. I know. None of us really like listening to these, but the truth is that we wouldn't be able to bring you this content without them. So let's just get down to it. First off, Wrestling Mania, the top floor of Stephen's Green Shopping Centre. Really good shop for all of your wrestling needs, whether that's DVDs, title belts, pop figurines, other collectibles, t-shirts, And if you like boxing and MMA, he has stuff there for you too. If he doesn't have something that you want, you can ask him. He'll order it in. No problems. Really nice guy, the owner of this shop. So get on down to Wrestling Mania on the top floor of Stephen's Green Shopping Centre. Oh, what's that? A pandemic? Well, that doesn't mean he's closed. Catch him on Facebook. Just send him a message. He'll sort you out. No problems asked. And our other sponsor, Peter Hart Graphics. Now, this guy has done most of, if not all of the graphics for the Dynamo's podcast network. Really good stuff, guys. Seriously, this is top quality stuff, and he doesn't charge a bomb for it, which is the greatest part. If you need any sort of graphic designed, it's peterhartgraphics@gmail.com. That's Peter, Peter, Hart, Harte, graphics, graphics@gmail.com. This guy is the easiest person I've ever worked with when it comes to making a graphic. You give him your ideas, he'll come back with something similar to what you wanted. And then if it might be exactly what you want, and if it's not, he is so open to criticism and tweaks, and he'll be back to you as soon as you give him what you want updated on that. This is easy stuff to get done. But actually, if you try to do it yourself, you'd realize just how difficult it is to make it look smooth and clean. Not a problem with Peter Hart Graphics. Check out his stuff on his Facebook page, Peter Hart Graphics.